Captain Jake Morrison stepped off his cargo ship onto the metal floors of Kepler Station. The air smelled like fuel and recycled oxygen. He had been making supply runs to the outer colonies for 5 years now, and every station looked the same. To him, gray walls, bright lights, and aliens from dozens of different worlds, all trying to make a living in space. Jake walked through the main corridor with his crew following behind him. Lisa Grant, his chief engineer, was checking her tablet for repair supplies they needed. Pete Collins, the navigator, was already looking at star charts for their next jump. Amy Chun, their medic, carried a small bag of medical equipment she wanted to trade for better versions. The station was busy as always. Tall blue Zentari walked past with their long arms swinging. Small furry keks scurried between the legs of larger aliens, carrying messages and small packages. The telepathic Mindari floated by in their hover chairs, never speaking out loud, but somehow always knowing what others were thinking. Jake was heading to the supply office when he heard something strange. It was like music, but not quite. The sound was soft and sad, coming from somewhere below. He stopped walking and listened. The melody seemed to pull at something deep inside him, making him feel emotions he could not name. "Captain, you okay?" Lisa asked, looking concerned. "Do you hear that music?" Jake asked. Lisa listened for a moment and shook her head. "I don't hear anything unusual, just the normal station noise." Jake frowned. The music was clear to him, but apparently not to his crew. He decided to investigate later and continued to the supply office. The office was run by a Centauri named Kex Ball. He was tall even for his species, with bright purple skin and 4 arms that moved independently. He greeted Jake with the standard trade greeting, but his tone was annoyed. "Human Morrison, your cargo manifest shows you are carrying food supplies to New Eden Colony," Kex Volume said, reading from his screen. "That is acceptable. However, I must warn you about the contamination in the lower levels." "Contamination?" Jake asked. "The Vorthek." Kex Volume said the name like it tasted bad. "Crystal beings that should have been removed from civilized space long ago. They are too wild for proper society. Their emotional songs can break delicate equipment and disturb the minds of decent beings. Yet they are also too gentle to be useful for anything important. They will not fight, will not defend themselves, will not even argue when treated poorly." Jake felt curious. What are they doing here? "Existing where they should not," Kexval replied. "No species will hire them. No world will accept them. They have been living in the station's waste areas for months, surviving on scraps and charity. Station management wants them gone, but they have nowhere to go." The sad music Jake had heard earlier made more sense now. "Can I see them?" QEX Vol looked surprised. "Why would you want to do that? They are worthless. Even the Sectar military rejected them as soldiers. The Mindari Collective banned them for creating psychic noise. The trade guilds will not work with them because they cause equipment failures." "I'm just curious," Jake said. QEX-VOL shrugged with all 4 arms. "Lower level 7, Section C. But do not blame me if their emotional pollution affects your crew." Jake completed his supply business and then told his crew he wanted to explore the station. Lisa wanted to come with him, but Pete and Amy decided to stay in the cargo bay to organize their new supplies. The lower levels of the station were darker and smelled worse. Jake followed the sound of the music, which grew stronger as he went. Deeper. Finally, he found them. The Vorthik were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. They looked like living crystals in the shape of humans, but taller and more delicate. Their bodies were translucent, with different colors flowing through them like liquid light. There were about 20 of them huddled together in a large maintenance room. Most of them were dim, their internal light barely visible, but one near the center glowed brighter than the others. She was singing softly, and Jake realized this was the source of the music he had been hearing. The song was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. As Jake approached, the singing stopped. The brighter Vorthik looked at him with what might have been eyes, though they looked more like faceted gems. She made a sound that the universal translator in Jake's ear turned into words. "Human being," she said, "you should not be here. We bring sadness to others." "I heard your song," Jake said. "It was beautiful." The Vorthic's light pulsed with surprise. "You heard beauty?" "Others here. Only chaos and pain." "What's your name?" Jake asked. "I am called Harmony of Distant Stars," she replied, "though that name has meaning only to my people now." Jake sat down on a piece of broken equipment to be at her eye level. "Why won't anyone help you?" Harmony's light dimmed. "We feel too much, and we feel it too honestly. When we are happy, our songs can shatter glass. When we are sad, our melodies make others weep. When we are afraid, our harmonics can stop sensitive machines from working. Other species say we are too wild, too uncontrolled. But you're not fighting anyone," Jake observed. "You're not causing trouble." "That is the other problem," Harmony said. "We will not hurt others, even to defend ourselves. We believe all life is connected through the great harmony. To harm another is to harm ourselves. Other species say this makes us too gentle, too weak to be trusted with important tasks." Lisa had been listening quietly, but now she spoke. "So, you're rejected for being too emotional and too peaceful at the same time?" "Yes," Harmony said simply. "We are the mistake that evolution made. Too much feeling, not enough strength." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, not at the Vorthik, but at the species who had rejected them. "Where will you go?" "We do not know," Harmony admitted. "Station management has given us 7 more days to leave. But no ship will carry us, and no world will accept us." Jake made a decision that would change everything. "What if I took you somewhere?" Harmony's light blazed brighter with hope, then dimmed again. "You would lose your trading licenses. The Galactic Trade Consortium has blacklisted us. Any captain who helps U.S. will be banned from all major shipping routes." "Let me worry about that," Jake said. "I know a place that might welcome you. The human colony on New Eden. They're far enough from the main trade routes that they make their own rules." Lisa grabbed Jake's arm. "Captain, think about this. Our whole livelihood depends on those trade routes." Jake looked at the group of crystal beings, their lights dim with despair, and at Harmony of Distant Stars, who was trying not to hope too much. He thought about the beautiful, sad song that had drawn him here, and how no one else seemed able to hear it the same way. "Some things are more important than profit," Jake said finally. "Harmony, gather your people. We leave in 6 hours." The New Horizon left Kepler Station with 23 Vorthik passengers hidden in the cargo bay. Jake had registered them as crystal specimens on his manifest, hoping no one would look too closely. The Vorthik had made themselves as dim as possible, trying to avoid detection. For the first day of the journey, the ship felt different. Jake could hear soft humming from the cargo bay, even through the metal walls. It was not unpleasant, but it was definitely noticeable. Lisa complained that the engine readings were acting strange, though everything still worked fine. On the second day, Jake decided to visit the Vorthik properly. He found them arranged in a circle, with Harmony of Distant Stars in the center. They were singing together now, and the sound was incredible. Each voice added a different note to create something that made Jake's heart feel both heavy and light at the same time. "You do not mind our songs?" Harmony asked when she noticed. "Jake, they're amazing," Jake said honestly. "I don't understand why other species can't hear how beautiful they are." Harmony's light pulsed with sadness. Perhaps it is because we evolved differently. Our world, Crystal Song Home, was covered in living caves that sang with the wind. To survive there, we had to listen to every sound, feel every vibration, and respond with perfect honesty. Lies and hidden feelings would create discord that could bring down the crystal walls. An older Vorthik, whose light was deep blue instead of Harmony's silver white, joined the conversation. "I am memory of ancient days," he said. "I remember when the first sky ships came to our world. We were so excited to meet other singing beings. What happened?" Jake asked. Memory's light dimmed to almost nothing. The Sectar came first. They heard our strongest songs and saw how they could break stone and bend metal. They wanted us to be weapons in their armies. When we refused, they called us defective and weak. Harmony took up the story. Then came the Mindari. They touched our thoughts and found too much feeling there. Our emotions were like bright lights in their quiet mental spaces. They said we created psychic pollution and banned us from their territories. The worst were the trade guilds, Memory continued. They hired us to work on their ships and stations. But when we felt happy, our songs made their computers malfunction. When we felt sad, their workers could not concentrate. When we felt afraid during dangerous work, our harmonics disrupted their safety equipment. Jake was beginning to understand. So they fired you. Worse, Harmony said. They spread word that Vorthik were dangerous to have around technology. Soon, no one would hire us for any job. No world would let us settle. No ship would carry us as passengers. Lisa had been listening from the doorway. That's terrible, but maybe there's a misunderstanding. Have you tried explaining that you can control your emotions? The Vorthik looked at each other, their lights flickering in what Jake was learning meant confusion. Control emotions? Harmony asked. Why would we want to do that? To fit in better. Lisa suggested. To not cause problems. But emotions are the truth of existence, Memory said. To control them is to lie to yourself and others. How can there be harmony when everyone hides their real feelings? Jake was starting to see the problem. The Vorthik were not just different from other species. They were fundamentally opposite in how they viewed emotional honesty. While most galactic civilizations valued control and predictability, the Vorthik valued authenticity and emotional truth. Over the next few days, Jake spent more time with the Vorthik. He learned that their names changed based on their current life situation. Harmony of Distant Stars had once been called Joy of New Growth when she was young, and before that, Curiosity about everything as a child. He also learned that they could sense emotions in others, even non-Vorthik. Harmony told him that his crew felt worried about helping them, but also felt good about doing the right thing. This emotional honesty was both impressive and unsettling. On the fourth day, something happened that changed everything. The ship's proximity alarms started screaming. 3 pirate vessels had dropped out of hyperspace and were closing fast. Pete's voice came over the intercom, panicked and urgent. Captain, we've got company. 3 Raider-class ships, armed and demanding we drop shields and prepare for boarding. Jake ran to the bridge, his mind racing. The New Horizon was a cargo ship, not a warship. They had basic shields and no weapons worth mentioning. Against 3 pirate ships, they had no chance of winning a fight. Can we outrun them? Jake asked. Not with our current cargo load, Pete said. They're faster, and they've got us boxed in. The pirates were already hailing them, demanding surrender. Jake knew what would happen next. The pirates would take their cargo, probably kidnap any crew members they could sell as slaves, and definitely capture the Vorthik as exotic specimens for illegal collectors. That's when he heard it. The singing had started again in the cargo bay, but this time it was different. Instead of the sad, gentle melodies he had grown used to, this was something powerful. The sound seemed to come through the ship's hull itself, making the metal vibrate in ways that felt almost alive. "What the hell is that?" Lisa asked from the engine room over the intercom. "The power readings are going crazy, but everything's working better than it should." On the view screen, Jake watched something impossible happen. The 3 pirate ships were slowing down, their attack formation breaking apart. Their weapons powered down, and their engines began to stutter. "They're hailing us again," Pete said, but his voice was strange, like he was trying not to cry. Jake answered the hail. The pirate captain's face appeared on screen, but instead of the usual snarl and demands, the alien looked confused and peaceful. "Human ship," the pirate said slowly. "What is that sound?" "It is the most beautiful thing I have ever heard. My crew is weeping. We cannot remember why we wanted to hurt you." The Vorthic song continued, growing stronger and more complex. Jake realized that what other species heard as chaos, humans heard as music. What others experienced as emotional assault, humans experienced as beauty. The pirates were being overwhelmed not by an attack, but by pure, honest emotion that they had never learned to process properly. "We are leaving now," the pirate captain said, tears visible in his alien eyes. "Keep singing, beautiful ones. The galaxy needs more songs like this." The 3 ships jumped back into hyperspace, leaving the new horizon untouched. Jake hurried back to the cargo bay, where he found the Vorthic still singing, but now with lights blazing bright with hope and pride. Harmony of distant stars turned to him, her glow warm and welcoming. "You see now why we are both too wild and too gentle," she said. "Our songs can stop warships, but we use them only to touch hearts, never to cause harm. Other species fear power they cannot understand and gentleness they cannot respect." Jake nodded, finally understanding. The Vorthic were not the problem. The rest of the galaxy simply did not know how to handle beings who combined tremendous emotional power with absolute refusal to use it for violence. "Maybe," Jake said, "you just needed to find the right audience for your songs." New Eden Colony appeared on the view screen like a small green and brown marble against the black of space. Jake had been here many times before, bringing supplies to the 5,000 humans who had chosen to build a new life far from Earth. And the crowded core worlds. Colony Administrator Kate Murphy met them at the landing pad, her face showing both relief and concern. She was a practical woman in her 50s who had helped establish New Eden 15 years ago. Kate was always glad to see supply ships, but today she looked worried. "Jake, good to see you," Kate said as he walked down the cargo ramp. "We really needed those medical supplies. But I have to ask about the energy readings we detected during your approach. Our sensors picked up some kind of harmonic disturbance." "That would be my passengers," Jake said carefully. "I brought some refugees who need a place to stay." Kate's eyebrows went up. "What kind of refugees?" Before Jake could answer, the Vorthic began emerging from the cargo hold. Kate stepped backward in surprise as 23 crystal beings walked into the sunlight of New Eden. Their bodies caught the light and threw it back in rainbow patterns across the landing pad. "Sweet Mary and Joseph," Kate whispered. "Those are Vorthic. You know about them?" Jake asked. "Every administrator in human space got warnings about them 5 years ago," Kate said. "The Galactic Trade Consortium sent notices saying they were dangerous to equipment and unstable for civilized contact." Harmony of distant stars approached Kate slowly, her light dim and cautious. "Human Kate Murphy, we do not wish to cause problems. For your colony, if our presence brings trouble, we will leave." Kate looked at the crystal being for a long moment. "Where would you go?" "We do not know," Harmony admitted. "But we have learned not to stay where we are not wanted." Kate was quiet for several minutes, thinking. Finally, she sighed. "Well, we've never been ones to turn away folks who need help. but I'll need to call a colony meeting. The people here will decide if you can stay." Dr. Rick Bell was the first colonist to really interact with the Vorthik. He was the head of the geological survey team, a man who spent his days studying the planet's structure to keep the colony safe from earthquakes and volcanic activity. Rick had been having problems with his equipment for months, getting readings that made no sense. When Harmony offered to help, Rick was skeptical, but he was also desperate. His team's predictions had been wrong 3 times in the past year, and the next mistake might cost lives. Harmony walked to the seismic monitoring station and placed her crystal hands on the metal housing. Immediately, she began to sing a low, complex melody that seemed to resonate with the equipment itself. The readings on Rick's screens suddenly became clear and stable. "How did you do that?" Rick asked in amazement. "Your machines listen to the planet's songs," Harmony explained, "but they cannot separate the different melodies. We can hear each voice in the harmony and tell you what the deep rocks are saying." Within hours, the Vorthik had identified 3 areas where underground stress was building toward dangerous levels. Rick's team confirmed the readings with their own equipment, but it would have taken them weeks to gather the same information. "They're not interfering with our equipment," Rick told Kate that evening. "They're making it work better. They can hear things in the geological data that we've been missing." The children were next to discover the Vorthik's gifts. Mary Foster taught at the colony's small school, where she had been worried about her students for months. Many of the children seemed sad and lonely, missing the larger communities they had left behind on other worlds. When the Vorthik began singing in the evenings, the children were drawn to the music, like flowers turning toward the sun. At first, Mary tried to keep them away, remembering the warnings about Vorthik emotional effects. But she noticed that after listening to the songs, her students seemed happier and more relaxed than they had been in months. "It's like the music helps them process their feelings," Mary told Kate. Yesterday, little Tommy finally talked about missing his grandmother. Sarah stopped having nightmares about the meteor shower. The Vorthik somehow make it safe for the kids to feel their emotions instead of hiding them. But not everyone in the colony was happy about the new residents. Some families worried about the warnings they had heard. Others feared that helping the Vorthik would bring trouble from the galactic authorities. The crisis came when a Centauri diplomatic ship arrived unannounced. Ambassador Trixnell was even more pompous than Keck's volume had been, and much more dangerous. He carried the authority of the Galactic Trade Consortium and several major governments. "Administrator Murphy," the ambassador announced at an emergency colony meeting, "you are harboring contaminated beings in violation of galactic health and safety codes. The Vorthik must be removed immediately, or New Eden Colony will face complete isolation from galactic commerce." Kate stood her ground. "This is a human colony on a human world. We make our own decisions about who lives here. Not if you want to continue receiving supplies, medical aid, or communication with other human worlds." Trixnell replied coldly. "The consortium controls all major shipping routes. Defy us, and your colony will be forgotten by the galaxy." The meeting hall was silent. Everyone knew what isolation would mean. No more supply ships, no more new colonists, no more contact with family on other worlds. New Eden would slowly die. Then Rick Bell stood up. "Ambassador, may I show you something?" He activated a holographic display showing the colony's geological survey data. These readings show 3 major fault lines that were about to cause devastating earthquakes. We had no idea they existed until the Vorthik helped us find them. They saved hundreds of lives. Mary Foster stood next. "The Vorthik have been helping our children deal with depression and anxiety. Our kids are happier and healthier than they've been since we arrived here." One by one, other colonists stood to speak about how the Vorthik had helped them. Farmers, talked about crystal beings who could sense soil problems before plants showed stress. Engineers described how Vortex songs had helped them tune their equipment for better efficiency. Doctors mentioned Vortex, who could detect illness and emotional trauma with incredible accuracy. Finally, Harmony of Distant Stars rose to speak. Ambassador Trix now, we do not wish to cause trouble for these kind humans. We will leave if our presence brings them harm. The offer to sacrifice themselves for others finally showed the colonists what Vorthic gentleness really meant. It was not weakness, but a strength that put others' welfare ahead of their own survival. Kate called for a vote. All in favor of offering permanent residency to our Vorthic neighbors? Every hand in the room went up. 6 months after the Vorthic arrived on New Eden, the colony had become the most talked about settlement in human space. News of their integration had spread through the communication networks, creating heated debates on dozens of worlds. Human colonies demanded that New Eden be punished for defying galactic law. They feared that harboring the Vorthic would bring economic sanctions against all human settlements. Others were curious about reports that New Eden's productivity had increased by 40% since the crystal beings arrived. Dr. Elena Rodriguez came from Earth specifically to study what was happening on New Eden. She was a xenopsychologist who specialized in interspecies relationships, and she had never heard of anything like the human-Vorthic partnership. It's remarkable, Elena told Jake as they walked through the colony's main street. Your people and the Vorthic seem to complement each other in ways that neither species fully understands. They passed a construction site where human workers and Vorthic were building new housing together. The crystal beings would sing while they worked, and somehow the humans found themselves moving in perfect coordination with the music. Projects that should have taken weeks were being completed in days. The Vorthic provide emotional honesty that humans usually avoid, Elena continued. And humans provide emotional complexity that gives the Vorthic new things to explore and express. It's like you're two halves of something larger. But their peaceful progress was interrupted when long-range sensors detected a fleet of ships approaching New Eden. Jake recognized the aggressive wedge formation immediately. Sectar warships, 12 of them, led by a massive battlecruiser. The lead ship hailed the colony within minutes of dropping out of hyperspace. The face that appeared on the communication screen was scarred and fierce, with the red skin and pronounced ridges that marked him as a high-ranking Sectar warrior. I am War Commander Zek Thul of the Sectar Empire, the alien announced. You are harboring stolen property. The Vorthic were recruited by our military 50 years ago. Their refusal to serve does not void our claim on them. Kate stood firm. During the negotiation, the Vorthic are free beings who came here voluntarily. We don't recognize your claim. You have 72 hours to surrender them, Zekthul replied. After that, we will take them by force. Jake knew the colony had no way to fight a Sectar battle fleet. New Eden's defenses consisted of some mining lasers and a lot of determination. Against military-grade weapons, they would last about 5 minutes. The colonists gathered in the meeting hall to discuss their options. Some suggested trying to evacuate the Vorthic to another system, but there was nowhere to go that the Sectar could not follow. Others proposed appealing to Earth government for protection, but help would take weeks to arrive. That's when Harmony of Distant Stars made an unexpected proposal. We wish to speak with War Commander Zekthul directly, she announced. Not to surrender, but to offer him something he has never experienced. What could you possibly offer a Sectar war commander? Kate asked. Peace, Harmony said simply. Jake thought this was suicide, but Harmony explained her plan. The Sectar are known throughout the galaxy for their aggression and their skill in battle. But we have learned something about them that others do not. No, their violence comes from pain they carry deep inside, pain that has been passed down through generations of their culture. Double quotes, memory dash of dash ancient dash days supported her. When the Sectar first came to our world, we could feel their emotional songs. Beneath their angry words, they are a species that has forgotten how to heal their own wounds. You want to try to heal a Sectar war commander? Elena asked incredulously. We want to offer him the choice, Harmony corrected. We cannot force healing on anyone. But if he is willing to experience true emotional honesty for just a few minutes, he might understand why we cannot be weapons. Jake was terrified by the idea, but he also remembered how the Vorthic songs had affected the pirates who had attacked them. If there was any chance of avoiding a battle that would destroy the colony, they had to try. The meeting with Zekthul took place in the colony's main conference room. The war commander came alone, as Harmony had requested, though Jake knew his ship's weapons were probably locked onto the building. Zek Thul was even more intimidating in person. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, with muscles that looked like they could crush steel, and scars that told stories of countless battles. His eyes were cold and calculating as he looked at the assembled humans and Vorthic. You have called this meeting, he said to Harmony. Speak quickly. My patience for defective soldiers is limited. We are not soldiers, Harmony said calmly. We never were. But we understand that you became soldiers because of pain you carry. Would you allow us to help you feel what you have never allowed yourself to feel? Zekthul laughed, but it was not a happy sound. I feel nothing but the satisfaction of victory and the drive to achieve more victories. That is the Sectar way. That is the Sectar survival, Harmony corrected gently. But it is not the Sectar truth. She began to sing, very softly at first. The melody was unlike anything she had sung before, deep and resonant, like the sound of ancient mountains or the memory of lost homes. Zekthul stood rigid, trying to resist, but Jake could see something changing in the war commander's eyes. Slowly, other Vorthic joined the song. Each voice added new layers of emotion, building a harmonic structure that seemed to reach into places that Zekthul had locked away long ago. The war commander's scarred face began to show expressions that Jake suspected had not been there for decades. When the song finally ended, Zekthul was sitting on the floor, tears streaming down his face. What have you done to me? He whispered. We have shown you the pain you have been carrying since you were a child, Harmony said kindly. The fear that made your people choose war over peace, strength over vulnerability, conquest over connection. For the first time in his adult life, War Commander Zekthul experienced what it felt like to not be angry. 1 year later, Jake stood in the crystal gardens of New Eden, watching human children play with young Vorthic in the afternoon sun. The gardens had been built where the original Vorthic refugees had first made their temporary home. Now it was a permanent monument to what could happen when different species chose to understand rather than fear each other. The transformation had been remarkable. New Eden was no longer a struggling frontier colony, but the most prosperous settlement in the Outer Rim. Ships came from across human space to trade with the Vorthic and learn from their abilities. More importantly, delegations from other species had begun arriving to study what they were calling the New Eden Miracle. War Commander Zekthul had become the most unexpected advocate for Vorthic integration. After experiencing emotional healing, for the first time in his life, he had returned to the Sectar Empire with a revolutionary proposal. Instead of rejecting the Vorthic as failed weapons, the Sectar could work with them as healers of the psychological wounds that drove their species toward constant conflict. The first Sectar healing centers had opened 6 months ago. Warriors, who had spent their entire lives fighting, were learning to process trauma, grief, and fear in healthy ways. The Sectar Empire was still strong, but their strength now came from emotional balance rather than suppressed rage. It is working better. than we hoped, Harmony of Distant Stars told Jake as they watched the children play. Her title had changed again, and she was now called Bridge Between Worlds, reflecting her role as the primary liaison between humans and Vorthik. The Mindari Collective has asked us to visit their meditation centers, she continued. They have learned that our emotional honesty, when properly filtered through their telepathic abilities, can help their people reach deeper states of mental clarity. Even the trade guilds had changed their position. They discovered that Vorthik emotional sensitivity could predict equipment failures weeks before they happened, saving enormous amounts of money in repairs and replacements. The same empathic abilities that had once been seen as disruptive were now valued as early warning systems. Lisa Grant walked up to join them, carrying a tablet full of technical specifications. The latest engine modifications are working perfectly, she reported. Having Vorthik engineers who can literally feel how the machines are operating has revolutionized our maintenance procedures. Jake smiled, remembering how worried Lisa had been about bringing the Vorthik aboard the New Horizon. Now she worked with them every day and had become one of their strongest supporters, Dr. Elena. Rodriguez had stayed on New Eden to continue her research, and her findings were changing how the galaxy understood emotional intelligence. The remarkable thing, she had written in her latest report, is that humans seem to be uniquely suited to appreciate Vorthik abilities. Where other species see emotional chaos, humans hear music. Where others see dangerous unpredictability, humans see authentic expression. Kate Murphy approached the group, carrying an official-looking document. Jake, this just came through from Earth. The Human Colonial Council has formally recognized the Vorthik as full citizens of human space. They're also establishing a new policy for accepting refugee species that other governments have rejected. More refugees? Jake asked. Dozens of them, apparently, Kate said. Word has gotten out that humans will give outcasts and misfits a fair chance. We're getting requests from species I've never heard of, all with stories similar to the Vorthik. Amy Chun joined them, leading a group of Vorthik who had been working in the medical center. These are some of the best diagnostic assistants I've ever worked with, she said. They can detect emotional trauma, physical pain, and illness patterns that our instruments miss completely. The Galactic Trade Consortium had eventually been forced to reverse their position on the Vorthik. Too many member species had begun requesting partnerships with the crystal beings. The consortium's official apology had been grudging, but their offer of preferred trading status had been genuine. As the sun began to set, the evening song began. This was a tradition that had developed naturally on New Eden, where Vorthik and humans would gather each day to share music and emotions. The songs were different every night, reflecting the hopes, fears, joys, and sorrows of the day. Tonight, the harmony was particularly beautiful. Voices joined from across the colony as people finished their work and came to participate. Human voices blended with Vorthik harmonics, creating something that neither species could achieve alone. Harmony looked at Jake with her crystal eyes sparkling with inner light. Do you ever regret the choice you made on Kepler Station? Jake thought about the question seriously. His old trade routes were closed to him now, and some human worlds still viewed him with suspicion. But he was the admiral of New Eden Small Defense Fleet, and his ship the New Horizon had become the flagship of a new era of exploration and diplomacy. Never, he said finally. Sometimes the best decisions are the ones that seem impossible at the time. A communication alert interrupted the evening song. Kate's tablet lit up with an incoming message from a deep space probe. Jake read over her shoulder and felt his heart skip a beat. The message was from a species called the Trillern, crystalline beings who had been exiled from their home system for being too aggressive for peaceful coexistence, yet too philosophical for practical military service. They had heard about New Eden and wanted to know if humans might be willing to meet with them. Jake looked at Harmony, who was already beginning to glow brighter with excitement and hope. In the distance, he could see other species representatives who had come to study the colony's success. The Sectar Cultural Attach was sharing meditation techniques with a group of human volunteers. A Mindari observer was learning to appreciate unfiltered emotion through carefully modulated Vorthic songs. Kate, Jake said, I think we're going to need a bigger colony. In a galaxy that had forgotten how to see potential in the broken and beauty in the different, humanity had remembered something important. Sometimes the most valuable partnerships came from the most unlikely places, and sometimes the greatest strength was found in the willingness to be gentle with those who had been hurt by a harsh universe. The evening song continued, carrying across the colony and up into the stars, a harmony that spoke of hope, acceptance, and the infinite possibilities that opened when different voices chose to sing together instead of alone.